VAATV, Vietnamese American Arizona Television. Hello and welcome to VAATV Real Estate Talk Show with Scott Barlowe and Linh. Investing can be tricky, especially for beginners. However, with the right knowledge and understanding, you can achieve success in your investment. Our talk show is designed to bring out great topics for investors like you. We hope you enjoy the show and welcome to submit any feedback during and after the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VAA TV talk show, the Real Estate Show with Mr. Scott Barlowe and Linh. So today pretty hot, right? Outside.
Today was warm, but
Yeah, so warm. Yeah,
yes,
so warm to me. We're talking about. We have a few things that cover from the last talk show, and I think a lot of our audience really appreciate last time you share so much information in regard to mistake and the crime and whatever under whoever that invests and got into some of the bad move and get caught, or even the tenant or something, and that's really give a good understanding to the investor of get the right things and do the right thing.
exactly right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, when we were talking,
Uh-huh.
one of the topics that seemed to get some interest was about the investments that were done in Vietnam.
Oh, yes.
In the bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe
The lady?
Yes.
The Chuang Mi Lang?
Yep.
Oh,
Exactly
I
right.
see. Yes.
So just to kind of refresh everybody a little bit about what happened.
Yes.
Ultimately she was found guilty in court and she received a death sentence. But just to back up and let's talk about what she was accused of. She had operated several different banks and consolidated several banks, and in the process of it, owned a significant portion of, I believe it was Saigon Commercial Bank.
Yeah, it's called Saigon Commercial.
And she owned up to 91% of the bank, which was not supposed to happen. So there was a failure at some type of government regulation level, the fact that she got that much of a percentage of the bank. And in the course of owning that, she was taking out loans, and she finally ended up defrauding the bank of about $44 billion. Now, that's the equivalent in the United States money, but $44 billion. And she's going to have to return a portion of it. There are some folks that feel like the reason that she got a death sentence was to encourage her to return as much of the money as she could, so that the courts would be a little more merciful and reduce that death sentence. That was one of the aspects. But just in overall terms, the size of the fraud and the length of the time that it went on is just amazing. I'm just reading here. There were, in the course of the trial, think about this for a moment, there were 2,700 witnesses. 2,700 witnesses. Now, the state had 10 prosecutors, but all of those people, the defendants, there were 85 of them. There were 200 lawyers that were involved in that. So, I mean, just that's a huge amount of logistics there. And to kind of give you the breakdown, she received the death sentence. Her husband and niece were also found guilty. Her husband, who was also a real estate investor in Hong Kong, he received 9 years. And her niece, who was the property management company head, she received 17 years. There were 80 people who received sentences all the way from 3 years of suspended sentence. In other words, where they were found guilty, but they didn't have to go to jail unless they did something else wrong, all the way up to people who received 20 years in prison. Now, a number of those people were government employees who had accepted bribes. And of course, then there were other people that were involved in her schemes. She started off pretty simple. I mean, years ago, she was she was a market stall vendor, and it said she was selling cosmetics and worked with her mother, and it makes you wonder how
So
did
you think like this way because she also shared a story, like when
yes.
the court asked her, she told like the head of the bank quarters, like the top knot, that she know nothing about the banking. She started doing real estate and she's get very
Hmm.
successful in
Yes.
all those in Times Square, in the hotel, and all that. So
Yes.
she got really successful and become very popular. And then she approached to run the bank, okay, to get involved with the bank. And she told them that I have no knowledge about the bank. I don't, I don't familiar. I'm not familiar. I'm not banker. I don't know anything about it. And then those people mentioned that those are the reason why I need you. So you
Hmm.
see the way how they say they need a person have no knowledge to do something that she doesn't know.
Perhaps manipulate them.
Manipulated. Yeah, that's the word. That's the
Yep.
word. So then we have to think like everybody, like we are greedy, in general. If the money come, if the picture is so large right there, then doesn't matter. And some top knot already sponsor you in the back. Then of course you're gonna jump in and just like the government will put you like a piggy bank. Like you have to work hard to earn money to get, and they allow those 10 years. You don't you think it's like a long time for bribe and
It
fraud
it
and everything else, right?
certainly
Yeah.
it certainly seems like it dragged on and on. And
Mm, mm.
you and I were talking earlier about Bernie Madoff,
Bernie Madoff,
who
yes,
was he had a Ponzi scheme
yeah,
here with
and Wall Street at that time, like the
exactly,
Nasdaq.
and where he
Mm,
was bringing in money, he
mm.
was building up portfolios,
Yeah,
but it was all false. It was
yeah,
all fraudulent. But people were making money, but they really weren't making money. What they were doing is they were getting money
fraud.
because
Pay
it,
for the debt.
paying
Yeah, yeah,
somebody
all
else
that.
was
Yeah.
paying it in,
Uh-huh.
and he was passing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And and at some point, when you have those kinds of schemes
You call
going on,
Ponzi. That's the word.
Ponzi
Mm-hmm.
schemes,
Yeah.
exactly. But when you have those types of schemes going on, at some point, the money over here that's coming in,
Mm-hmm.
it stops or it runs out. And then the money over here, where the people were receiving it, now they were going, well, where's my money?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so everybody kind of gets caught up in it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think to a certain extent, this happened with her. But the scale of it was in Vietnam was just so shocking. Um, they said that this fraud that she perpetrated was the equivalent of 3% of the gross
Of the GDP
domestic
of
uh,
the
profit
nation.
for the entire nation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3%. And then, this was something else that I found just pretty amazing. For the 3 years prior to her actually getting caught, she had her driver going into the bank and he was withdrawing money and bringing it to her house. And
Mm-hmm.
she was storing this cash at her house. She had over $4 billion of cash. Now, it was in Vietnamese currency, but even if they had used the largest denomination of the Vietnamese currency,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of cash that she had stashed at her house
Mm-hmm.
would have weighed over 2 tons, over 4,000
Oh
pounds
my God.
is
Yeah,
how
that
much.
because the Vietnamese the money already is so much to
Yep.
even when they say mention
So
the
I
word.
mean,
But
the scale of it was huge. There were multiple people that knew about it, obviously, with 85 defendants,
yeah.
and like we said, 2,700 people that came and testified. But it's certainly one of those instances where it shows that there was government corruption. In other words, one of the chief bank examiners,
Mm-hmm.
he had taken the approximate value of $5 million in bribes to look the other way. So it had been going on for a while. And as
Mm-hmm.
you said, when people get greedy,
Mm-hmm.
there's
They jump in. They don't even know anything.
they lose good
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, they couldn't figure it out how damages or how heavy the finalize, the
That's it.
final ending we're talking about.
It
But she's smart. She's a smart lady. That's why she'd be able to like from the small cosmetic and selling just the small stuff and move up and bought the commercial building and earn some profit and get populated, get the a lot of people know her and deal with a lot of big investor
mhm.
and she's the target for the people to come and ask her join the bank. She know nothing about the bank.
She knows nothing about the
And
bank.
you know, like with the Vietnam law, though you're not allowed to own more than 5% of the stock in the bank. We talk about Vietnam bank, but 90%. So
So she was
it's just
obviously
I didn't know
doing.
if she didn't know or because of she lack of well, I didn't know. With her level, she should get people advise her and all that, with knowledge
You
and
would
everything.
certainly think so, and
Yeah.
you know, hopefully they can recoup a good amount of that money back. It sounds like she did invest in a good many pieces of real estate there in Vietnam.
But she already mentioned that please let me fix the situation. Allow me. Even the husband, they's talking to you and she all it just like she was pleased. She didn't say that's her fault because really at the beginning she didn't think that her fault. Her fault is believe people. Her fault is not knowledge. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
have knowledge enough and too greedy for those.
Too
But
greedy.
but she didn't think like, oh, she do this is wrong. So now she said, okay, government allow to let me allow me to fix the situation, to bring it back to the way it was, or to make it better. I will make up the mistake and all that. But they just don't buy that.
No,
You see, I mean, like, but if she pass, what can they do? Except collect all her money. That's all.
try to get as much money as
Yeah.
back as they
Uh-huh.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like if she have that mind, that knowledge, they can use that knowledge for something that helping them to get better to any situation.
Well, that
Yeah.
would be a possibility, but I
Mm-hmm.
think at this stage, what they really want to see is her try to return as much of that money as she can.
Yeah. And she says she will. That's why when there's many things like when you capture the person and you was like closely, not like sentence her death, but like you closely monitor her or like make sure she done this, she do this, she return this, all that. We're talking about the human. We talk. You cannot punish person to die when the person didn't commit it, killer, or anything like that. That's how
Right,
I
right.
put it that way. But of course, when the person get angry over, they get all the fraud. But who allow her? We have to put that in. It's like her mistake doing that. But a higher person, like, why allow that happen? You see? So if she done one thing and then that not go through, she's not gonna go further. But then now this is why allow her and then go back because the person like thinking, oh, I can do it. Okay, let's move on,
Mm-hmm.
and deeper and get deeper. See, so the lacking of the controlling of whoever, whatever that is not uh, not only like 100% is her fault. Her fault is doing that.
Well, and
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say that
mhm,
that she was hardly alone. There were a lot of people that were taking money
yeah,
off that.
yeah. But now she's alone to face the sentence. For those. So I was thinking like there's a lot of things going on that we unknown thing, but I would show out the facts. Yes, for those like whatever they allow the people to know, then we know. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
um and all the certain things that I just pray because as a woman, I fall for her woman, when she cry and she because her family and she say why I put my family in this case. I just like in a bad dream, woke up and then like she said, I don't care about my life, I want to die. And I don't know why I have to put myself in this situation. And my daughter, like she has a daughter that parallel half of the body, but recently recover and be able to walk.
Okay.
So now she was asking that she allow her to take care, her family and all that, and make up the mistake. And that's the thing that she say as a normal woman. No, she doesn't say about um, uh, uh, like a mental woman or something. She didn't say about that. She just say as a normal person, as a woman. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's just that. But like in like Asian, I think if when the woman usually the woman always secondary. You see the big leader and everything always men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
but rarely you see a woman. So if the woman in there really tough, got to be something, really something.
Yes.
You see. So then now in this case, of course, the man would jump over and say woman is nothing, nothing, nothing. It's always there in their mind, or something like that. But I just pray that she will have a better. She will fight back and say something so that she can save her life. Of course,
Right.
her crime we cannot deny it. That's her crime. She do it. She have to pay for it, but not that heavy.
I understand what you're saying
Yeah.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah, even with Bernie Madoff, he didn't get a death sentence, but
Yeah.
um, you know,
We are in U.S.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's why I mean, but like, see, he didn't even pass through. I mean, talking about that, it's really like you have no life outside.
right.
You were just more than dead. Like a few years after that, see, he died in the jail. Bernie. Yeah.
He was a good bit older than she was,
Yeah,
but
he was early. So he died when 80 something. So he
yeah,
was caught like in around there, right? Before like 80 range, right? Yeah.
yeah.
70 something.
But he had been doing it for a long time too.
Oh, yeah. But this is the stock, right? He involved with the Wall Street and then get investment and all that. No, this is the banking. Oh boy, and not too many bank in Vietnam.
No, that sounded like that was
Government
more of a
bank.
centralized bank.
Yeah. It's so I know, like, this is a story. Somehow I just as a woman, I feel for her. I feel what you say, like she didn't know it, but then everybody had the greedy in there, you know. I mean, when people offer you and get the big benefit, and then what is it that you're afraid of? Somebody back you up, like a big guy
Right,
back you up,
right.
right? What are you afraid of? You know, you see
Well,
that's like
well,
a trick right there.
well, and that, and the
Uh-huh.
fact that when you talk about some of these people, like the bank examiner that
Yeah.
took five
Hmm.
$5 million,
Yeah.
any one of those people could have stopped it just by being honest.
There you go. But how can people blame her when they accepted it? They allow that happen.
Well, they all took
You see?
smaller portions than
Yeah.
she
So
did.
I
So
say, well, because like, see, the one that have to hold off everything, at the end, like they take a small, but they save. You know, I
hmm
think that way. But because that's why I keep saying that we never feel don't ever like too much greedy when we gotta know law, we gotta do the right way, understand law and do the right way. That's what I'm saying. Because
exactly.
if nobody can accept, so when she go in there and she say, I don't know about banking. Okay, well, you cannot say you don't know. You've been there for 10 years. You should learn and you should know, right?
Right.
So then see, they don't buy that one. But that's really a bad move for that. When she says something, she have to accept the facts and make correction and 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 point out, what's wrong. And she had to admit like what she did is wrong,
Yes.
because if she didn't admit, then meaning like, um of course she think is my way of thinking. I have to put some thought in it so I can make money, right? So people have to think that way. How many can think that way? But because they don't want to go against law,
hmm
they don't want to think about it. But because she doesn't know, so then she can go all the way. You see? So then that's why um is too many involved, not only just her.
No,
She's
no.
just a normal woman that is really um put into a greedy, like money in your hand, you take it. Like you like go with the flow. Like, oh, maybe God help me to get this, so I move on and get it. I do it. She doesn't know, like, okay, that's wrong. Well, even the way that she was thinking, 5% of the stock is only allowed at Vietnam, but why they can declare her 90% of it? You see?
That's yeah.
So those I don't know, the lawyer over there that fighting for her. I don't know what they're gonna be do, but I hope that they will find a good reason and everything else to defend for her. Yeah, for that.
Well, she's appealing it, so
Yeah, so that we just hope, but I doubt it. I mean, I don't know about the different country, but we just know that we have to understand law. We practice the right way and we do the right law right way. Just yeah,
You
because
know, I think you hit on a good point, and
yeah.
this goes back
Mhm.
to ethics in investing, ethics in the way that you do things is,
Yes,
y- you know, we've already said nobody cares about your money as much as you
you
do.
do. Yes.
But by the same token, you also need to know and recognize what's the right way to do things,
Mm-hmm.
because it may not happen, a repercussion may not happen immediately,
Mm-hmm.
but sooner or later everything will get caught up,
Yeah.
and
Right.
everything will
Mm-hmm.
come to light. So
Mm-hmm.
if you were in the wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have to get it taken care of.
Right. Yeah, because like if like people was like saying, okay, just get me the money and I do the investment for you and all that, like buy this, do all that. But you have no knowledge. You gotta know. You gotta know where you invested to, right?
Yes,
You gotta know. Like
absolutely.
people come and tell you like, okay, you want to just like buy this, buy that. So then the next thing is that you need to know where exactly that place is, and you need to know exactly the um, legal document, like a CD, who owns it, and the transfer is correct or not. The
Yep.
company, the escrow, the title, all those. They cannot just like say, okay, then just pay because like just what people give to him to
Right.
invest, but then they was thinking like they invest, but no, he just take the money to do something else.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah, so then that's why a lot when the past talk show, you talk about those investment, but within the investment, there are many faults in it, right? Um, just because of ignorance, just because of not enough knowledge, and investigation, on your own,
Hmm.
for that. Like people say, tell you you invested, you have to know, you have to read, you have to see, is that too much of the hand or something for you, to
Right.
handle. Just like, and then they like it a lot when you share those, and they say if you have anything else, they would like to know, So that's really helping.
Well, I think what the
Uh-huh.
big thing with
Yeah,
a lot of these things that, we were just talking about Bernie Madoff, and
yeah,
we're talking about
yeah.
Trung My Lan,
Right.
is that you don't start off with the big crime. It's a little one
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of little ones, and it keeps building, and you're not getting caught, and you become more and more bold, and
Mm-hmm.
the greed allows itself to build until the point where now you're doing big ones.
Exactly. See, so those are like a step to step.
Exact.
Um, I yeah. So I know her advisor, her attorney. Um, those people. What happened?
She had to have had people
Hmm.
that were close to her that
Hmm.
she was relying on for information, you would think.
But I think just the head of the people there already accept the money and she was safe. She think, oh, I'm safe. Yeah,
Well,
nobody
and
can.
that becomes another aspect to it, though.
Hmm.
Is she surrounding herself with people where there is a culture of corruption? In
Mm.
other words, we're taking bribes and
Hmm.
looking the other
Yeah.
way.
Uh-huh.
That's the normal way of doing business.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah. That's why to her it's normal too. To
Hmm.
her, like, oh, okay, is what happened? I mean, if I got, then there's nothing serious,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So we have to be cautious. I mean, I think like everybody's shocked about the situation, about how she can earn that much, take that much,
Yes.
and so many years that come
Yes.
along. For that. And the people that work with her, that they have no way of not turn her in. Like all those little LLC that she made, for the person to stand up, they go against her and they say, that's not mine. She told me to sign it. That's not mine. That's I'm not the owner of this company, of this
Hmm.
LLC. And so ended up she has the witness, right? Bad witness right there. See?
Right.
Many say have a bad case. I mean,
But
bad on her
that's
side.
pretty common when the government goes after people.
Mm-hmm.
They'll turn the smaller people because they want to get the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, it's just like what here in the United States when some of these people end up
Mhm.
going to court,
Uh-huh.
the little guys are getting,
Mhm.
they get squeezed
Mhm.
to give up on the big guy,
Mm.
which is a
Mhm. Yeah.
a ready
Mhm.
way where prosecutors work.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. They allow you to have a few years, you know.
Hmm.
If she's smart enough, she stop right then. Yeah, don't do
Yeah,
it anymore, you
yeah,
know. Then they couldn't get any, but they they are it's huge money right now. So
yep,
I mean, all her access, even like before she do the bank, are gone. I would assume, you
yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah.
bad. Yeah, sad.
It's a crazy tale, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
right. So I think just work hard for your own money and just don't do any even like big. I don't jump into, you know. I rather like do the investment, do the right way, get the knowledgeable person that guide me through and do the right way. You know,
Yes.
do like the story I share with you that we we sold the one of the piece of property, right? And there's a water leakage in the wall, and then the mole, the people, we have to find out if this is a mole or not, right? So we find out, oh, maybe we take out, maybe there's mole, so it's like it's still there. But let's say another bad advisor I'm talking about, they're not going to disclose that to the buyer, right? But you know, the good one, I rather lost money, I rather offer them lower money so that they understand and acknowledge that there's might be possibility of the mole, then I'd be safe in a long way. You know, I offer them a few thousand, whatever, that if they you accept, I lower the price for you just because of that. You can fix it, you take it, then you accept it, right?
It's your responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what you're talking about is disclosing a latent defect.
Uh-huh, yeah. Like
And
like history, like whatever that, but that's it just like happened recently.
yeah,
Like yeah, even that happens recently.
but we've talked about that in the
Mm-hmm.
past as a disclosure issue.
Yeah.
If you have knowledge of something
Uh-huh.
being wrong,
Uh-huh.
you have to disclose it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
because if you don't, that could be considered
No,
fraud.
because like some of the other situation, they might think with another agent, they might think, oh, if I disclose it, then they will lower the price, and they don't want to lose the price. You know, they were thinking
Right.
that way, but that's not the right way in the long run because
Exactly.
because this is residential. You know,
Exactly.
and so if something happened, this in the case if you see something that's more even more, you rather have a peace of mind. Just lost the money here, you can make some money elsewhere, you know, or just do it legit way, you know,
Do
like
it the
that.
legitimate way
Right.
is
Mm-hmm.
exactly right.
Yes.
Because, sometimes if you don't and you cut corners,
Mm-hmm.
like
You
what I
have
was
money
saying
here,
before,
but you lost big money at
you'll
the end.
and
Yeah.
you'll get caught, and then
Mm-hmm.
it speaks to your reputation too.
Exactly. Yeah. So so that's why we have to think of you know, if whatever that is, even sales transaction, we have to think the possibility, but then gotta be a knowledgeable realtor that can advise you. You know, like if you don't disclose what happened, okay, and if you disclose what happened, then you will see the right way and you do it. You know, you rather have a peace of mind than after the closing they can always go back to you. You know, for that.
And if you're shown
Mm-hmm.
that you had knowledge and you should have disclosed it,
Mm-hmm.
then the courts can impose punitive sanctions on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it becomes the amount that you were going to spend becomes far less than what
Uh-huh.
you're going to get for penalties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for like another story that the phone call interrupt that I you know that you could go against it again, but I'm saying that like there's many situations where we think like if we can hide something, but at the end this will be find out. It will be like really bad and reputation all gone, and you know if you don't even get anything there, but like you end the way down the line, you know, you
Hmm.
have to pay for it. So
Let
it's
me
a
give you a
lot.
quick example of that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
actually have a
Hmm.
have a transaction that I'm
Yeah.
working on right now. It's an
Hmm.
industrial property,
Yeah.
and the property, um, the family that is selling the property their family members have had the property since the late 50s. And it was used for automotive purposes, paint work, body work, changing oil, doing engines, that kind of thing. There were some allegations that were made during the course of it. And mind you, when it comes to an industrial or a heavy property, in addition to the normal inspections that we normally do, we also do an environmental inspection. And so what we had to do is we had to hire an environmental specialist, and they came out and they did what's called a phase 1 inspection. In other words, they come out, they take a look at the property, they look to see if there's any signs of contamination or chemical use or anything that would cause a concern of contamination. And initially, when they looked at everything, they thought it was fine. The property is completely concreted over. While they were doing a history on it, they found out that approximately 25 years ago, on a section where there's concrete, that there were dry wells. And dry wells are these deep pits. They're filled with rock and everything, with the idea so that if there's water drainage, it can go into there. You don't have to have the big retention ponds. But in this particular case, because they had oil seepage because they were changing oil, and so there was a lot of oil that went down into those pits. So the allegation was made that the soil underneath the concrete was contaminated. Now, this was an expense that the owner did not want to have to go through, but through disclosure, we had to tell the buyer what was going on. And at one point, what we ended up doing was the environmental engineer hired some specialists. They came out with these devices called ground penetrating radar, where they could look down through the concrete and determine where these pits were. Once they determined where the pits were, they marked them. And then we had another engineer who came out, and they had it was like a small tractor with a drill bit about that big around, and they drilled 10 feet down, and they took samples of the dirt at 2-foot intervals all the way down right at these pits. And then all of that got sent to the laboratory for analysis. And when we got the lab report back, thank goodness, they said that the levels of contamination there was below reportable standards. So basically, it was in the normal range, and there was no further action needed. But that was one of those things where the disclosure led to more expense. But could you imagine just the reverse? Had she not disclosed that, and something came up, and they said, you know what, that ground is contaminated, and then to drill down there, and if that had indeed been contaminated, that would have gone back onto the owner. And it could have led to all kinds of legal actions. But by doing it the right way, it was some extra money, but now that that's done, everything is safe and sound, and it's above board. And you don't have to, it's a case of where now she doesn't have to look over her shoulder. She can be pleased.
So there are many options right there, like either like she have to lower way for the money if the person want to take that risk or whatever, right? Or like start doing it and then make and think of if it's not, then the buyer will say goodbye, or the buyer will do whatever.
Exactly right. And
right.
you know, most buyers do not want to take on responsibility for chemical contamination.
But like there's an option of how to clean it up and all that stuff. There's sort of money involved.
Exactly right. I mean, as it was,
but the right way. Right?
The initial inspection was about $2,000, but then the subsequent drilling, locating, and everything ended up to about $13,000. Now, fortunately, those dry wells were not contaminated. But had they been contaminated, the next step would have been cutting out that concrete, drilling down and taking out that contaminated
how deep
dirt.
That is, right? And find out surrounding too, right?
Exactly right. So it could have led to some more expense, which, by the way, if you've ever seen a gas station when they shut it down, you ever notice how they put the big fence up and then they come in? They not only dig out the tank, but they test the dirt that's all surrounding it.
Right.
And the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, they keep reports on all those types of things, so that if you do buy a property, And I've sold several
Or
where
even close to the gas station too, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But I've had it on a couple of occasions where I've sold properties that
Mhm.
had previously had tanks. And fortunately, the Department of Environmental Quality
Mhm.
did have the reports, and I could go down, get a copy of the report, show
Mhm.
that the
Mhm.
soil samples were clean,
Mhm.
and provide that as evidence to the new buyer that it was safe.
Right. Well, that's good. Um, so, and another scenario is like about banking, about loan.
Yes.
So, let's say a lot of people was always thinking about future fund, okay, and that's a bad move. If the income, future income, okay. So, like the real story that the lady was listening to the person come and apply for the loan, and um, give all the promising. Okay, right now my salary is not enough to qualify, but I will qualify because I'm gonna make it. So can you do something so that the bank can approve me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she been doing it for so many, and so when the crisis hit, uh, the loan, the person borrowed the loan didn't have money to pay the bank, and so many of them like that, and so she got caught and put in jail until now. The fraud,
Mm-hmm.
that
That's loan fraud.
yeah, she make it for the person, but the person didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
I don't know, like the person, I mean, the fault isn't her, but the person that really borrowed a loan have just lost the house. That's all. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So, uh, in a way that we're thinking like, if we have the money right there, if qualified, we buy, and it's legit. Down the line, like 2 months, 3 months later, no job, then it's okay. But at least at that time, you approve, you
Right.
qualify,
Right.
right? Yeah. So that's why we just remind to people, like we don't think about the future money, like, oh, I will make it, so don't worry. Even though right now they qualify, they need more fund, but I will have. See, the bad thing I want to share with you, and this is a bad move. I don't suggest anybody would just follow that too, because at the time we bought the house, and we are missing like 35,000. Okay, we only need 35,000 for enough down payment. And you know what I did? Like I get a credit card that offer me like 2 3 months free interest or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but then they charge like 4% of withdrawal of fee. Okay, so the income that we got is qualified for that, for the whole loan, except the down payment. We don't have enough down payment, so then we we withdraw that. But let's say lucky we make it in like 2 3 months to pay back the money. If not, what happened? We're gonna pay like crazy for
Well,
the interest,
that's
20 something
that
percentage.
that's quite true. You'll
Yes.
pay a high interest on it,
Mm.
but I'll tell you, and this is something that I
Mm.
caution
Yeah.
anybody that's taken out a home loan.
Yeah.
If you're taking out a home loan, don't take on any other debts
Hmm.
during that time period, because it is not unusual. You may go into the bank and you may sign all your paperwork and
Hmm.
everything, and then that all that paperwork goes back to the lender. There
Hmm.
are some lenders that will run your credit
At the end.
at the very end,
Yeah.
and they'll go, "Wow, they just bought a car, or
Hmm.
they just maxed out a credit card. They no longer qualify." So that can end your deal right
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And so there, all the time you hear from loan officers when they're talking about it,
Yeah.
they tell people, do not take on any more
And then
debt
more credit card.
during
Yeah.
this period.
Yeah. At the time, which is like it's disclosed. So this disclosed that
Yeah.
we have that loan too.
Yep.
Even though it's not pop up in the credit report, but those are bad move. I mean, if you have enough money, you just do it. If not, then don't borrow a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah, credit card is crazy. You pay the
Yes.
interest at the beginning, yes, but uh, lucky that okay work so much and can't spend do anything. We
Right.
have enough money to pay all back would before the interest rate hit. Otherwise, 20 something percent interest.
Correct.
How can? Yeah. So those are the one that we need to
Really pay
careful
attention,
and think
be
about. Yeah,
careful with. Yes.
that's why sometimes there's good investment and all that, but we have to sit down and think. Okay, but we don't want to go all the way. I mean, get the money, get the loan, and then caught up, and so much worry. So much thing.
Yes.
The worriness in there. So that's why we think of getting it the right, what on your hand, right, to invest, and then if it need to, then do smaller instead of making bigger, right?
You can always work up to get to a bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh well. So how about the you see gas is ways up again, right?
Gas is way
Yeah.
up. The word out right now is that
Uh-huh.
inflation is up.
Yeah.
And of course, the other thing too is that
Uh-huh.
as soon as inflation goes up, and you think about the things that are most common that we buy on a daily basis, gas.
Mhm.
Gas has jumped up here in
Mhm.
the last few weeks, probably about 35, 40 cents a gallon.
Oh wow,
The
way up.
price
Mm.
of food has gone up again. And why did somebody was asking me the other day, why does that keep jumping up? Well,
Yeah.
transportation costs. I mean, if you think about the farmer's out there, he's producing stuff, but it's costing him more to purchase gasoline
Yes,
and
and then
parts
run.
and then run his
Yeah.
equipment. So
Uh-huh.
he has to
Right.
pass the food costs on.
Mhm.
And then as far as the stores are concerned, the cost of groceries goes up because the cost of transportation goes up because of the cost of fuel.
Yeah.
And if you look at what they call the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, a couple of the big items in there, housing, of course, is a big cost in there when they're looking at inflation. But gasoline and food costs are also big items that are in there. And those are two items in particular that have seen a pretty significant jump. So because inflation has continued to move up, as I said last week, the Fed had made a decision that fortunately, they haven't raised rates. I think everybody was hoping by this time of the year that we'd start seeing some rate decreases, but it's highly unlikely that either,
No.
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned last week that the mortgage rates
Yes.
had jumped over 7%. This week, they rose to 7.17%.
Wow.
And that's the highest since November of 2023. So the number of loan applications has decreased, but interestingly enough, the number of sales,
Still on.
pending sales, is up 3.4%.
Because like whoever save money enough, they can buy all
They can
cash.
buy. They can buy. Yeah.
Yeah.
National Association of Realtors, they're looking at it, and their economists are predicting right now. National Association of Realtors economists are probably some of the more pessimistic projectionists, but they still think that by the end of this year, that there's going to be a 9% increase in sales in 2024 over 2023.
So you see, like they buy residential more, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing is there's demand.
Mm-hmm.
Give you an idea, back in 30 years ago, so think back to 1994, there's 70 million more people living in the United States now than there were then.
Wow.
So where do those people live?
They need a place.
They need houses.
They need a place.
And so, they talk about affordability. Well, yes, but by the same token, existing homes, the prices of those and the values of those, it just continues to rise. And even though there's more homes coming on the market, there's still people out there that are trying to buy. They would rather buy than rent.
Yeah.
So I still think that despite the fact that we've seen such raises in the interest rate, we're still going to see folks who are trying to buy homes. And by no means.
How can they qualify for the loan?
What they do is they have to buy a house that's the dollar value of the house is less than what they would have. Probably the best example that I can give is, a year or so ago, the median price of a house was about $40,000.
Right.
And about half the folks out there that were buying houses could afford that. Now with the interest rates, and mind you, remember we were
Yeah.
down in the threes,
Yeah,
in the
3
fours.
something. Yeah.
So now if you compare that, the buying power that those folks have has diminished to the point where the type of same payment, by the way, same payment,
Uh-huh.
you know, someplace in the neighborhood of around $2,300 to $2,500 for that. Now that same payment will only get them a house in about 350 to 370,000. So you can see what that's done to their buying power. They're paying the same, but they're getting less house. And so that's made affordability more difficult. So builders right now are doing well, and the reason why builders are doing well is because oftentimes builders have their own in-house financing. They may have a lender that they work with,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of an exclusive arrangement. What they're doing is they're doing buy downs. In other words, they can buy down the interest rate for a period of time with the expectation that by the end of that buy down period that rates will have come down, then that new homeowner can go out and refinance.
Because I see like a lot of a new builder, they usually offer the lot, right? They build just one house and then they have that too many lot. And then when they start selling it and people buy it like right before they build it, they get lower price. And
Yes.
so they already get the customer deposit and everything, then they build.
Yes.
So then the guarantee that the loan, whoever offered that person,
Exactly right.
we get the money. Yeah.
Now, one thing I might point out is
Yeah.
if let's suppose that you go to a home builder now and you put money down to hold a lot, and you've got a house selected, they know what they're going to build on that lot, they've got a price on that lot, and say the interest rates rose to 8 or 9%. What if you don't qualify now, even with those buy downs? You may forfeit that money.
Right.
So, you need to be very careful and
careful for that. Yeah.
pay attention to it.
Yeah. Just know like what you need to don't get caught.
Yes.
Get stuck. I mean, get stuck.
Don't get stuck is exactly right.
Yeah, don't get stuck.
So, going back to the National Association of Realtors, like I said, what they're talking about is they're anticipating about a 9% increase in the number of homes built or purchased this year. Where, let's see, they're figuring roughly 4.46 million home sales this year. But in 2025, they're anticipating over 5 million. So the future they look at is optimistically, but we've still got to get through this period of inflation and these higher interest rates.
Right.
When the interest rates go down, there'll be more people out there wanting to buy.
And then the price.
And prices will still go up again.
Yeah.
So those are kind of interesting things to be looking at. But the thing I found most interesting, though, was the fact that despite the fact that interest rates have gone up and mortgage applications have gone down, there's still more houses getting sold.
Yeah.
It's gone up 3%. So to me, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Wow. Yeah, that's I don't know where those money come from.
Yes.
They can buy. Yeah.
Well. One other piece of news that I wanted to touch on, and we've kind of hit on it the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the National Association of Realtors, their settlement on this big court case.
Yeah.
That just this past week, the judge for the case, he allowed a number of different cases to get consolidated, and he has given a preliminary acceptance on some of the terms that we've already talked about. There's a couple of things that I just want to talk about real quickly.
Yeah.
Because there's still, despite the fact that there's been a lot of stuff on it in the news, there's still some ideas out there that aren't necessarily true. And so I wanted to hit on just a couple of them. First one is the settlement forces brokers to reduce their compensation. In other words, that the brokers have to reduce their commission. This is not true.
Okay.
There is nothing that says that the broker, nothing in that
have
agreement
to reduce like amount
that you have to reduce your amount. The courts are not in the business of telling people how much compensation that they can get. My suspicion is that you will probably see listing agents, listing brokers continue to offer their services at the rates that they normally did. Remember, the big portion of this is that we're not going to have the buyer's compensation included, unless of course the seller wants to include it.
Yeah.
The second one is that the seller will no longer have an obligation to provide compensation for the buyer's agent. This is false, and let's talk about this for a second. There has never really been an obligation that said the seller will provide the buyer's agent compensation. On commercial transactions, it's not uncommon for the buyer's agent to be compensated by his client. The seller just proceeds by paying for his own real estate representation.
Right.
Now, in the housing market, the model that everybody kind of got to differently was more traditional, but there was never a legal obligation ever for that seller to provide that compensation. Now what it is that it's going to be made very clear to the seller, and this is where I think that the biggest mistake some of the different brokerages and perhaps some of the different states had was that they did not make it clear to their clients that there was no obligation. I know on some of our state forms, when you're reading through a listing agreement, it does say on there, here's what the total commission is, here's how much is going to go to the listing agent, here's how much will go to the buyer's agent. And of the seller, everything that has to do with real estate is negotiable. I know from my experience, I've offered different rates of commission for all kinds of different properties. If I know a particular property is going to be extremely difficult to sell, or if I know that there's going to be a lot of additional duties above and beyond what I would normally have to do, then I ask for greater compensation. On the other hand, if I know it's a quick transaction that'll go smoothly, I'll ask for less compensation.
Right.
Because, you know, a lot of it is just based on how much work you're going to have to put into it. You know, and it goes back to the point of you don't want to be greedy. You don't want to charge 5% for just writing up a contract.
That's true. Yeah.
So in that standpoint, that's a false statement, because there will be instances where it may be in the interest of the seller to do that. Which brings me to the next one is the settlement prohibits sellers from paying a commission to the buyer's agent and relieves sellers of the financial burden. Once again, that's false. There's nothing that prohibits a seller from doing whatever they please when it comes to how they spend their money in that transaction. And there may be instances where, let's say that I'm representing you,
Yes.
and we get an offer on your property. We don't have anything for compensation for the buyer's agent, but that buyer, he's already under contract with the buyer broker agreement to pay his agent.
Okay.
He can't necessarily pay it. Well, he's got money for it in his down payment, but the totality of it is he needs assistance. So he may come back and ask you.
Yeah.
He goes, can I get a concession in the amount of 3%, or can I get assistance for paying my broker?
Yeah.
So those funds can be negotiated, but it's going to have to make sense to the seller overall. You know, it's the bottom line on what your proceeds are going to be. So in some of those instances, it may make very good sense to go ahead and compensate that buyer's agent out of that sale proceed.
Because the meaning is not like paying the commission to you, then you have to go in my side. That's how it is, right? So then the buyer asking the seller to pay for my broker, then it's a different story.
Exactly right. Help me buy your property by paying this fee that I'm obligated to pay.
I obligated to my realtor. Yeah.
Exactly right. Another one is the settlement will serve to meaningfully lower prices and make home ownership affordable again.
Right.
This is false as well, because we've kind of talked about it, some of the aspects of representation. The seller is still going to get the same service from his broker, and that broker is probably going to offer it in the same amounts that he has in the past. I know from my standpoint, when I take a listing on, I have obligations to advertise it. I have, as I gave the example with a few minutes ago, with that industrial property, I have an obligation to help my client find the right people to do those types of inspections
Yes.
or corrections. So the amount of work that goes into it is not changing. On the buyer side of it, perhaps it might be a little bit cheaper. Perhaps you might get buyer's agents who, now they're coming in and they're willing to do it for a little bit less. But one of the big groups out there that studies real estate, they predicted that at most that the real estate commissions will go down by about 1%. So if you think about it, if you got a $500,000 house and the real estate commission got reduced by 1%, that's $5,000.
Yes.
I mean, that's $5,000. It's still $5,000, but in the great scheme of things, that's not a significant reduction.
Exactly.
So it's not like you're going to see houses falling thousands upon thousands of dollars
just because of that.
just because of that. Exactly. The settlement is a win for buyers who will now be able to negotiate the fee for representation. That's questionable. And the reason why it's questionable is, first off, in the old model that a lot of folks used, the seller was already paying for the buyer broker. So that buyer, he did not have any obligation. It was already assumed that the seller was paying for his broker.
Yes.
Now he will have an opportunity. He can indeed negotiate with his buyer's broker. But if you go too low, you get to the point where that broker cannot afford to make a living off of those providing those services.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to do? You're going to put yourself in a position where nobody wants to work for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that becomes questionable.
You don't want to push too much and just give people some room.
Well, and there's another organization out there that's kind of similar to the National Association of Realtors. And one of the things you and I had talked about, and I've mentioned this several times, in my mind, the folks that are probably going to get hurt the most on this, at least initially, were the first-time home buyers.
Yes.
Because they did not have an understanding of how all this worked.
Yes.
They did not have the financial wherewithal to make a lot of it work. In fact, many times the first-time home buyer, they're scrambling to come up with just enough funds in order to be able to qualify.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so to add,
I don't think of any other stuff.
Add that type of stuff on them. I think that there's a real concern with a lot of people that's going to harm those first-time home buyers.
But maybe hopefully the agent that they went with would have to alert them about the situation and find a solution, right?
That's exactly it. And so that's part of where that buyer broker agreement is going to be key. But I do think that I think a couple of things are going to happen. And we spoke about how do you know you've got a good buyer? How do you know you've got a good
agent?
A good agent. Yeah. And as we said, you can research them online, you can interview them. You can see what their past sales have been like. And you can even do a short-term buyer-broker agreement.
Exactly.
If indeed, after 30 days, they're not doing a good job for you, get a different one.
Yeah.
But, for some of these first-time home buyers.
Understand that you do the right, that you don't get stuck into one that didn't provide the way how your house should be,
or find you a house. Find you a house.
Yeah.
Exactly. The last thing is the settlement that's going to the courts. Remember, originally that the judgment was for $1.6 billion, and that the agreement that they finally came up with is that the National Association of Realtors is going to pay $418 million. So a lot of people are going, $418 million sounds like a lot. So all of those plaintiffs are going to get a bunch of money back.
Yeah, divided small.
First thing, let's think of it this way. There were so many, you've got attorneys involved in it. And the attorneys have already gone to the judge and they've asked for $80 million in legal fees.
Oh boy.
So take the $80 million off the
Divide.
$418 million, that drops you down significantly. And then as far as the number of plaintiffs that were involved,
Yeah.
they're estimating that by the time that they divide that remaining amount up
the
with all the
billion or
plaintiffs,
whatever.
the people will end up with about $10 back per
Oh
person.
boy. With
So,
all those time.
so
Yeah.
those are just some of the ideas that were floating around out
Yeah.
there, and I thought it was interesting that this particular group that they came up with some of those things.
Wow. Interesting, right?
It is.
Wow. We look at it, the big number, but not that is.
That's for sure. But the key thing going on,
Yeah.
and you should always remember this. Whether you're dealing with me, whether you're dealing with a different agent, ask questions.
Yes.
Make sure your agent's giving you the answers to the information that you're asking. Sometimes you think you're giving your client information that they're asking for, where they really are looking for something else. Make sure that you ask the questions that you feel that you need to. Make sure that you're getting represented
That
the
have
way that
knowledge and can answer all your questions, right?
exactly right.
Yeah, because I run in the past, like before I know Scott, I get into someone else, like the same thing when we ask question, then that person goes, oh, it's okay, and then didn't even answer the question, and then I forgot about it, like avoiding answer the question. So those
most of the time when it comes to real estate questions,
yeah,
you can find that. You can
yeah,
I mean, your realtor should be able to provide you
right,
a place where you can read it and verify it for yourself. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is, remember, when it comes to real estate, everything is negotiable.
right,
The agent's commission is negotiable. The amount of time you list the property is negotiable. The price that you list it at is negotiable. So all of those different things, it is a negotiation. Ask questions, work together. Because if you and your realtor are trying to sell a property, you're really forming a teammate.
right.
And so you want to make sure that you got the best teammate that you
True.
can.
Yeah, that's true. Just be a good team and trust each other, and then of course, if the agent that have knowledge, then he might raise up some concern for you.
Exactly.
Like sometimes, like you don't know what to concern. What was it I need to know? What's it I need to worry?
Right.
And then the knowledgeable one. I mean, like, because he said, okay, he have to explain this. He has to say this.
Nobody can know every possibility.
Exactly.
But a good experienced agent will have had enough experience so that when things are not working right, or if it looks like there's going to be an issue, they can explain to you and you can plan for that, and you're not surprised, you're not caught off guard.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Wow. Anything else that I see you have the whole lot.
Well, I always bring extra things. But,
oh, okay.
But
we we have like about 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me jump on one thing real quick here.
Okay, sure.
And this is something that it kind of caught my eye.
Yeah.
It was an article here, and it was in the it was in one of the Arizona newspapers.
Oh.
But it was talking about a lady that her dad had passed away, and they were in probate. In other words, where the estate had to go to in front of a judge so that they could get authorization to dispose of the property.
So the house under her dad's name.
The house was under her dad's name.
Nobody else's name.
Nope, just
no
under her
trust
dad's.
at all.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was just in her dad's name. He had passed away. They were already in court, and then at some point, she found out, or she drove by the house, and all of his belongings were gone from the house.
Oh boy.
And there was a sale sign up there.
Oh,
and one of the and she called and looked on the MLS and found out that the house had been sold to another buyer.
How that happened?
Well, exactly? How did that happen? So what that is, it's called deed fraud. And so what somebody did is, because they saw that the house wasn't occupied, They went back and they looked for properties where they're completely paid off,
Okay.
so that there's no loan on
No
it.
loans
Because
on it.
you now,
Yeah.
because if there's a loan, that's an extra step, and you have to
Right.
clear the lender.
Mm-hmm.
But so there was no loan on it. They forged the documents for that sale, and acted as if they were him. Sold the property off.
Oh my God.
And so, like last week, how we were talking about with squatters,
Yeah.
how you need to go buy your property, make sure
Uh-huh.
the same thing. If
Any,
you any of
anybody
your
move anything out of your
there are
house.
opportunists out there who
Oh
will
boy.
always try to take advantage of those types of things.
So maybe somebody have to be like close to him to know his signature, his name, his social, all that information to
Well,
be able to
but
sell it.
but a lot of that stuff you can find. You can pay for
Yeah, for Social Security?
to get that kind
Oh,
of thing.
really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
You
Oh,
there's people out there that will get that
the way
information
that,
for you.
that's terrible. Wow.
So, but she immediately went back. She got her attorney involved in it.
Right.
The attorney went back, and the courts ordered it. That whole sale reversed.
Mm-hmm.
She got the property back, and
Okay.
it's being completed. But
Happened to the person. I want to know what happened to the person did it.
well,
He
I
got in jail or what?
that much I don't know. I would assume so.
Or he said, okay, here, I return back to you. Don't put me in jail.
Yeah, what she's
Whatever.
doing is here, in that article. She says the criminal had an ID, and it showed that he was born in 1988.
Wow.
And she goes on to say that my dad bought the house in 1978.
Whoa. It's so hilarious
So-
right there. So many years.
And she goes on to say nobody put it together. So
Oh,
it's kind
boy.
of a case there of what was that realtor thinking?
How about the escrow things?
Well, exactly right. What were
Es-
they thinking?
Yeah. Escrow title, because they always run like information.
You would think so.
Oh, boy.
That's exactly it. So the Arizona Association of Realtors, they put out a little thing here, and it talks about vacant land fraud.
Uh-huh.
But this is just as good to apply some of these things to homes as well. And that's number one, red flags.
Mm.
If the land or the property is completely paid off. The reason why that is because, as we mentioned, you don't have to horse around with a mortgage company clearing it. Vacant parcels owned by the same owner for a long period of time, or homes owned by, as we said, her dad bought it in 1978. The new owners, or I should say, even the so-called sellers. In this case, he had passed away, but it's not uncommon to have owners who live in a different state. They don't see their property,
Yeah.
so all the more reason to pick on those people. They're not going to.
Wow.
It's going to be a while before they catch up to it.
You think like the camera surveillance or like even the high Wi-Fi, they can turn it on and they can put the camera and they can
I
go over
certainly-
for
I-
sale somewhere.
Yeah, I certainly
Right.
think it's worthwhile to have somebody locally that you can have go put a
Go
camera
put a
on there.
camera on it and
Yeah.
then like can watch and see anyone come in the house
Yeah.
or come into the trespassing or
Put
whatever.
a Ring doorbell on there
Yeah.
at a minimum.
Right. Yeah.
A couple of other signs of it is that when that property goes up for sale, that it's extremely low. And if it's a good, the old saying, if it's a good deal,
It's always
if it seems like
something
it's a
in there.
good deal, there's something the matter
something
with
in
it.
there. Yes. Be cautious.
Sometimes they come up with these excuses that the seller needs to sell
The money
fast,
real fast. Yeah. So
or that they're out of the country, or that they're out of the state. So there's always kind of a sob story, and so what they're also trying to do at the same time is alert realtors to.
but I'm surprised.
those
I mean,
types of
like,
things.
I wonder what happened to the lady to the new owner. Aren't they be able to get the money back where they
Yeah,
purchased?
they had to go back to the.
Yeah. So that guy had to return all the money back to the folks.
if
the
they
buyer.
could find them, so they turn it. It becomes a law enforcement matter. Then that's
Oh.
fraud.
Yeah, because like okay, get the deed reverses. What about the new buyer?
Well, that's
The new buyer got the money, pay already.
That's
to
right.
Now you mentioned something about the seller right there.
Yeah. So, some of the things that
Yeah.
they do
Wow.
are telling realtors, and it applies to sellers
Yeah.
and buyers.
Right.
Be extremely careful with emails coming from out of country sellers
There you
who
go.
are in a rush to sell a property.
Mm.
Ask the seller who referred them and how they found you.
Ah.
Ask to speak with the seller via Zoom, Skype, or other video conferencing platform.
Yes.
Ask, and I might add, I've had a couple of these, and in one case,
Mm.
had someone who was in Asia.
Mm.
They wanted to buy property here,
Uh-huh.
and they wanted to move money into the United States.
Yes.
And so what I did, I thought that was fishy early on,
Uh-huh.
but I knew an attorney who was used to handling those types of transactions.
Yes.
So I referred this individual
Mm-hmm.
to that attorney, and
Mm.
sure enough, that attorney smoked him right out.
It's
The whole
false?
thing was fraud.
Oh. Yeah. Scary.
Um,
Too many
Ask the
things.
seller questions about the property, such as when
Mhm.
and how they came to acquire it, and
Mm.
what their plans were for the vacant parcel to see, or the vacant home, see
Yes.
if they know what its history was.
Right.
Request a copy of their identification.
There you go. That's the main point.
Check the county assessor's website for the current owner's address,
Mm-hmm.
and consider performing an internet search. I
Mm-hmm.
do this all the time.
Yeah.
I do an internet search
Gotta know
on a
who's
lot
the
of people.
owner, who's the real owner, name on it.
Exactly right. Check the treasurer's site and review the history of the tax payments.
Right.
Perform a notary search and contact the embassy or consulate.
Mm-hmm.
And I might add, there's some hoops that you have to jump through. If it's when somebody is out of the country, if it's an American citizen, they're out of the country, there's a way where you can do a signing for a notary, but they have to have video, they have to have a number of different things. If the owner of the property, and I had this last year, I had an English citizen who was selling a property,
Okay.
and he was overseas. He
Ah.
wasn't in England.
Oh.
He was in Spain for part of the time. So he had to go to the American consulate, had to get things notarized there, and they had to be FedEx back.
Mm.
But there are ways of doing things, but don't let the more that someone seems hasty and in a rush to get something done, and especially if it's something that's a little bit difficult, or maybe wants to cut corners, that should always be one of those red flags that things are not as they appear. And so you need to pay a little more attention to it. Do it the right way once again, and that's how you avoid those fraudulent situations.
That's true. Yeah.
But even here in Arizona, you got people who are trying to take somebody else's home and trying to sell it and make a profit.
Oh boy, I don't know why America, they all have law right there.
Well, they
right?
have.
So
they
I
have
mean, how
laws.
can they tax somebody else's property? Like they go into a big risk with their life.
Well, they go into a risk, but I mean, it's
That's
they
default,
falsify
like, terrible.
documents and all kinds of things to make it happen.
That's so scary when people come and then give you a document and say, okay, sign this, you get that. You got to be careful.
You have to
You
be
gotta
very
know
careful.
where's that coming from.
Yes.
And the roof and all that. Yeah, this is a good thing that you bring up, because like for simple-minded, okay, like for me, I have no idea. Okay, makes sense and everything else, but I don't think anything further. No,
Mhm.
I didn't know what else, what happened. If this is if the person says it belongs to me, then I just trust that belong to me.
Sure.
But there are many steps that to do to investigate and find out.
Exactly.
Right? Before you purchase something, right?
Exactly right.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Scott. You might very interesting.
I'm sorry I keep bringing up bad stuff, but
no,
the news
this is a good thing.
the
The
news
experience.
the news has been full of stuff like that here
Right.
of sorts.
Yeah.
It always seems like when the economy gets a little bit tight, that's when you seem to get some of these people doing odd things.
They just don't care. They just went away and just make profit. They don't care about the consequence or anything.
That's right.
Yeah, that's bad. So, I mean, I know that this is also a lesson for all of us, to investment, to purchase, to buy, to sell, and to trust the right person, to choose the right realtor, and and for the any investment that we involve, right, Scott?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to say something, and then we can see you next week, and then
Well,
maybe you
hopefully
wanna
next
say
week we'll have another subject that's
interesting.
just as interesting, but maybe not as bad. But
I
if anybody has any questions, of course, you get my phone number there. You got Lynn V's phone number.
yes.
Certainly reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer
any
anybody's
feedback.
questions. And look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah. For any feedback, you can always messenger or comment or even call and let us know what topic you're interested and what you want Scott to cover. He is a great, knowledgeable realtor, broker associate that I know. It's been like 20 years. So thank you for watching our VAATV Real Estate Show, and see you next time. Wishing you the best weekend. And don't forget to watch, if you want to watch the Vietnamese music, tomorrow we have a Vietnamese entertainment. Okay, thanks for watching.
Bye bye.
See you next time.
Thì xin cảm ơn sự theo dõi của tất cả quý vị trong những giây phút vừa qua. Chương trình VAATV xin kính chào, tạm biệt và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị vào lần phát hình kỳ tới. Mọi chi tiết về thông tin thương mại và bảo trợ, xin mời quý vị hãy liên lạc về địa chỉ email vaatelevision@gmail.com và số điện thoại là 480 289 9816 480 289 9816, website vaatv.com và vaaznews.com. Xin